Okay, the intention of this video is to review what we did in class and to also give a refresher maybe for those who missed the information the first time. So what I'm going to do is go over just the extreme fundamentals of the Game Maker application of creating a level and a sprite and an object, which is the fundamental starting point of any game that we're going to create. Now this is going to be very simplistic. We will get much more complicated and in-depth into this program as the semester goes on. So first of all, what I want to do is create a room. Now a room in GameMaker is, you can think of it as your level. It's the level of the game where the gameplay begins. So uh, as you can see in GameMaker, we have this file structure, which is a tree structure that you're familiar with in the Windows operating system. To create a room or to create anything in GameMaker, there are two ways to do it. One, you simply right-click on the word or the folder and you can create the room, or there's also an icon for this up here on the menu bar. So I'm going to go ahead and create a room, and this is your room here. Outlined in gray here is the play area. So first of all, I want to do a couple of things here. This grid, by the way, will not show. That's simply there for placing objects. The first thing I'm going to do is to give this room a name, and I'm just going to call it level 1. Well, if I could spell it right, level 1. And then the caption for this room is kind of the name of the level or even the name of the game, and I'm just going to call it Bouncing Ball. It's not really going to be a game per se. I'm just simply showing you how these things are created. So with this is our level 1, and there's our caption for our room. To save this, you simply check on the green check mark, and you can see I have level 1 here, and this is going to be our play area. Now we have to create a couple of things here to make a game object. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring in a picture for our game object. And a picture in GameMaker and in other game creation programs is called a sprite. So again, I can right click here and go to create sprite, or on the menu bar we have this little red Pac-Man like icon. If I click on that, it does the same thing, and it brings up the sprite properties dialog. Now we have a default name here of sprite 1. We want to give that something a little more meaningful, so I am going to name this SPR, which stands for sprite underscore and ball. So this is going to be a picture of a ball. Now we can create a picture of the ball using the sprite editor, but so many times in GameMaker these sprites are already created for us, and this is the way I have this set up. So I'm going to load the sprite from an outside file, and I've already set up this folder called Demo1, which is available to you on the shared drive. And I am going to choose the basketball, and since I only have 2 there, and I'm going to go ahead and click open. So now I have loaded the picture of a basketball in here, and for right now I'm just going to leave the origin at 0, 0. That is a point at which it attaches to the grid that you saw in the room, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I want to go ahead and create another sprite here because I'm going to put a wall in there, and the wall will be, the ball will hit the wall and bounce off. Well, hopefully it'll bounce off if we do everything correctly. So let's go ahead and create one more sprite. Again, my naming convention, SPR underscore wall. Load the sprite, and we're going to load that wall block. and open and OK. So I've created two pictures here, and that's what these are. They're just pictures. They are not game objects. Objects receive programming. Objects do things in the game itself. So what I want to do with these now is to create two objects which will receive some programming, and the objects are what actually do things in a game. So I'm going to go here to objects. If I wanted to create an object, I would go ahead and click create object, and I'm going to create an object called ball. And again, I want to use my naming convention of obj underscore and ball. I'm going to assign it a picture. Again, a sprite is just a picture. So I have two pictures defined, and I'm going to use ball. Now I want this ball to do something when it is created. So I have to add an event. We use a lot of events in GameMaker because events are what drive our game. So anytime this ball is created, I want it to move. So I'm going to go ahead and click create, and I'm going to start it moving in a direction. So with this one, I'm going to have it move. I'm going to pull over this moved fixed icon into my action column. I kind of went a little fast there. And I'm going to have it start moving to the right with a speed of 5. Now we'll get into more of what the actual speed means, but 5 is a relatively slow speed. So now I've created a game object called ball, and I'm going to start moving it to the right whenever it is created. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that for now, because right now I want to create another object called for the wall. So this time I'm going to right click on object and create an object, and I'm going to call this one obj wall. I'm going to assign it the sprite of the sprite I created earlier. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is visible, and I'm going to make this solid, and I'll explain more in class about the difference between solid and non-solid objects later. The wall object is just going to sit there, so there's really no events or actions associated with it at this time. So now I've got two objects. I've got an object for the ball and an object for the wall. And now what I'm going to do is put these in my game level. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to double click my room, which I've called level 1. And now I'm going to put some of these objects in my room. And they will snap to this grid that I have here. The first object I have is wall, and I'm going to go ahead and just put these on each and every grid space around the wall. Now to do this quickly, you hold down the shift key and the left mouse button, and I can just drag this wall object around here. So I've put a little wall around my room, and now I'm going to put in the next object, which is the ball. So if I click on this little icon here, it gives me my list of objects. I've only defined 2, so I'm going to go ahead and click the ball object and click just somewhere in the room to place it in there. So now I've made all these changes to the room I created, and I'm really good to go here to test my game. So I'm going to go ahead and save the changes I've made to my game. And to run my game now, I'm going to click on this green arrow that says run the game. And so I'm going to go ahead and click it, and there's my ball, and whoa, what happened there? I said it was supposed to bounce. Well, what happened is I didn't tell it to bounce. So I'm going to have to close this and come back. Always test your changes, because this did not behave the way I wanted it to. And the reason it didn't is because I didn't tell the ball to bounce off the wall. I just told it to move to the right. So now I'm going to edit my ball object, and I have to add another event. Well, what kind of event am I going to add? I'm going to add a collision event. So if I click on the collision event, well, what's it going to collide with? Well, I only have two objects. So if it collides with the wall, I want it to do something. I want some action to follow that. And what I want it to do is I want it to bounce. So I'm going to pull it over here, and what this tells me is that the ball, which is, think of it as the self, it will bounce not precisely against solid objects. And remember, when I created the wall object, I made it not solid. So if I click OK and click OK again and run my game, we should see it bounce off the wall, and it does. So in this lesson, what I've done is I've created a sprite, which again is a picture. I've created objects, which actually receive programming that you define, and I've placed them in a room or a level. So we are going to do more with this game in the next video. Stay tuned.